Sup flappers, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about Hu Tao and Eula, and the reason I'm making this video is because a lot of people have been requesting, not requesting, especially like demanding me, for me to make a choice, essentially be like, well, Walrus, I need to make a decision, like right this very moment, Hu Tao or Eula. I was expecting Albedo, right, or Zhao. I was not expecting Eula to come. What should I do? Right, pros, cons, who's stronger, who's weaker, who's easier to build, who has better longevity, or who do you think has better longevity? I've been pretty much destroyed through DMs at this point, and I'm just gonna bend the knees and come out making this video. Okay, so we have to start from recognizing the roles that these two main DPS plays in the game, and yes, I do think they are both top tier options, and of course they would be. That's why people are having this dilemma, and I know people are going to be saying, hey, you know, just pull for whoever you like, whatever your heart desires, man, you got it. Currently, I guess these players are put into a position that the luckier ones are able to actually choose which one they want, be it if they saved up enough to guarantee them, or be able to, I guess, 50-50 them, right? So it's not always that people have the luxury of choosing who they like. Sometimes they're forced to make a difficult choice, and hope this video can help you out. Starting with Hu Tao, she is a pyro on hit DPS capable of doing decent burst damage as well, versus Eula, who is the pinnacle of burst DPS in this game. You can say the shining beacon, the icon within the community, the golden standard for burst damage DPS. Now, right from the get-go, you should notice that the fact that Hu Tao is actually fitted into two potential DPS options gives her a slight edge over Eula. And now, again, the argument of jack of all trades, master of none, right? Yes, Hu Tao is capable of doing both great on-hit DPS as well as burst damage, but at the same time, Eula, while not as great for her on-hit, mainly because her on-hit is going to be just physical damage, right? And when I say it's not as good, I'm talking about 25-30k pretty easily, even for free-to-play players. If you're talking about like whales, leviathans, yeah, 50k is gonna be, you know, doable, 50k per auto. But bringing it back to reality, right, for the Welkin players, right, for you, realistically, Eula is going to be hitting for 25-30k per auto, with her burst damage at C0 potentially, I would say, going up to a couple hundred, 300,000, you know, maybe 400,000 if you really push it, but realistically nowhere above that. At the same time, Hu Tao's burst, with her burst, if you build the right team, you can get up to 100, 200,000, so like maybe around half of Eula's, which is still very respectable, right? Now, talking about their playstyles, I do want to give the edge over to Hu Tao. She just has more fluidity. She can play around her normal attack, her charge attack, and her burst. Whereas Eula, yeah, her normal attacks are good. Her charge attacks, people don't use Eula's charge attacks, alright? But essentially, Eula's burst is what her entire kit is centered around. Essentially, her team is oftentimes built around utilizing her burst to its maximum capabilities, alright? So one can also say that Eula is easier to get handicapped in a way because her burst skill is her main tool of accessing damage in her kit. That being said, miHoYo has been very lackluster when it comes to targeting physical damage carries, which Eula essentially is. For those of you out there who are saying, you know, Walrus, I build my Eula with cryo damage cup, go take a hike, all right? You know, maybe skip this video, come back a little later. But what I want to really highlight for Eula, or people who want to pick up Eula, is her burst is essentially everything, right? Yeah, her normal attack does a decent amount of damage, but her burst is her kit. Her team is built around it. Artifacts, weapons, you all try to push it all into her burst skill because that's what you use her for, right? Those fast room clears in Spiral Abyss, defeating challenging opponents, that's what Eula is built for. You're free-to-play players, you're always struggling with high HP bosses, you're always struggling with these bosses who you feel like are immovable. Hey, perfect slapping dummy for Eula to build up her charges. Now back to Hu Tao. Understand that Hu Tao requires more on-field assistance assistance in the form of units that needs to facilitate her when she's on field, as opposed to Eula, who requires more synergistic team pairings, right? You need to get her energy particles, you need to pair for debuffing the enemies, let's say superconduct, shredding the enemies, which allows her burst to do more damage. In essence, it's simpler to make Eula work as opposed to mastering Hu Tao's mechanics. If you see yourself as a player who can brag about their mechanics, who can oftentimes take characters and perfect their playstyles, or you prefer to just take time to mastering the niches, the ins and outs of characters, Hu Tao can be a character that really puts your mechanical skills to the test. Double dash cancel into a jump cancel, doing that once, you know, nobody bats an eye. You do that like 5-6 times in a row without breaking a sweat, and also perfectly timing each animation cancel. You know, even if nobody's watching, you do feel a little bit proud of yourself for even achieving that fact, because a lot of the times these rhythmic things really gets to you after a couple repetitions, versus Eula, which is you never really cycle through Eula's skills that much, because essentially your enemies should be dead within 1, maybe 2 cycles. If you're taking 3-4 cycles of Eula's burst to clear a room, hey, something is really wrong. All right, ultimately miHoYo has done this by design, which is that these 2 main DPS deal damage in very different ways. Hu Tao is a pyro on hit who really wants to rely on powerful reactions such as vaporize or melt, but mainly vaporize with Xingqiu, I might add. That's who Hu Tao should be paired with for maximum efficiency, and occasionally she could drop that burst, but most people use her burst just for the healing, not so much for the damage, right? People are building Hu Tao as a nuker as well, very doable, especially if she is C6, even more viable, but that versus Eula, who is a physical DPS carry in the cryo element, whom is specialized in 1 hit burst damage through her burst skill. I hope I didn't lose anybody there, all right? Just in their explanations, it could be summed up to say that Eula is going to be the easier one to build teams around and to make work, versus Hu Tao, who in a way I would say is a more flexible carry, but at the same time suffers from certain drawbacks, such as being a little more hassle to make her reach her ceiling, which in a way it's not really a bad thing. Now, I will highlight though one more thing. I did touch on it a little earlier, but I'm gonna say this right now, all right? miHoYo has been finding ways, albeit very creative ways, to target units like Hu Tao to make her less viable. Take the new Rift Hound boss, for example, right? How are you gonna touch that thing when it's floating around in the air? I mean, I saw a couple sequences of it flying upwards, and I sure as hope not that thing can take off into the air like Dvalin or something, and he's gonna start attacking you. So characters like Yoimiya, bow characters like Ganyu, they're gonna have an easier time reaching this boss, just like they do with the Dvalin boss fight. But so far, miHoYo hasn't found any creative ways to target units like Eula, because she's so special. She's one of a kind, first of her kind, and the only one, right, in her essentially categories, the physical DPS. The other physical DPS are already crippled beyond belief, and this is the only really high functioning physical DPS. So with that said, I hope this has cleared things out for you. I've laid it all out here. Make your choice based on what type of player you are, what type of teams you have, and the current state and potentially the future of the game state, and how miHoYo themselves wants to proceed with developing Genshin Impact. All right, with that said, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to be live streaming later today, so hope to see you guys all there. Until then, I urge y'all to stay safe and peace.